All right, Chris here. Let's go ahead and render out our controller using IRAY in Substance Painter. So with Substance Painter open and your project all complete, we're going to click on this little camera in the top right, which will open up the IRAY renderer. And I've already messed with this a little bit, but I'll kind of go through with what I've done. By default, you'll get something like this where you see the environment map, and we want to get rid of that. So the environment, if I click on this little display setting icon, you can see environment map. And in here, there are a bunch of different environments. And these environments essentially just affect the lighting for your scene. So you could choose whichever one of these you feel best shows off your model. There's some studio lighting down here. I frequently like this Studio 3, but we'll kind of go through. Remember that you can hold shift and right click and drag to move around the light. If you do end up picking one of these environments that has an image, then what you need to do, and even if you choose the studio one, actually you should scroll down and click on this clear color, which will keep the lighting information but get rid of the background. And that's what we want. That way we're just focusing on the model and the presentation of the model. Alright, I'm going to use Studio 5 and with clear color selected. Next, my model was floating in the air, and we don't want that. We want the model on the ground. And to do that, you can mess with this Y slider. So, for instance, mine looks something like, this, where it was floating off the ground. And I had to change my Y. It took some finagling, but I changed it to negative 0.075, and that puts it right on the floor for me. Then we'll scroll down in the settings, and for now we're not going to mess with aperture. We can do that in a little bit, but I'm going to click on this activate post effects, and I'm not going to mess with color saturation. I will turn on vignette, just a subtle vignette, and I'll activate temporal anti-aliasing, and I'm not going to mess with any of this other stuff. Next, I want to actually center the model. Then I'll come up to the renderer settings. You can see it says rendering here, and I'm going to wait until it finishes rendering. Now you can adjust these sliders to increase the time it spends rendering, and the default settings, I believe this is normally at like 10, and that's fine. But if your image is still blurry after it says done up here, or it doesn't look sharp, then first thing you should do is increase this max time. Then you can also increase this minimum samples. And then I'm going to just make sure I like my width and height, the resolution. If I want to override the viewport resolution, I can do so here, and I can type in a specific number resolution. So if I wanted like 720, I could do 1200 by 720. But I'll keep this like so for now. Once you have the model centered and it's looking good and the resolution is good, then we can save the render. Once you are ready to save the render, inside the render settings, you can just go to this save render. So now I'll hit save render, and I'll save this in the images folder of my project folder right here, and I'll save it as a JPEG. Hey, guess what? You did it. Good job. The biggest piece of this is just keep going, right? Finished, not perfect. Find another project to do and challenge yourself. See you there.